December 7th also has a very much more personal connection because a year ago today, my grandfather passed away. But more important, well, almost as important as my grandfather passing away, because he was a good man and we had a good relationship and I miss him very much. But more important, almost as important as that is as he was unfortunately passing away or about to pass away before I knew this was happening, I was in Montana crossing over into Wyoming to load a talcum powder, or the ingredient that would become talcum powder, something like that, some kind of talc, I don't know, I don't remember the exact mixture below, but it was 40-something thousand pounds of powder in those large powder sack bags that you get on skids sometimes. And my truck was throwing me some issues. Turns out the NOx sensor that I had neglected to replace sooner was going bad. And when it finally failed and broke me down on the side of the road, shortly after the truck had come to a stop, like within minutes, while I'm trying to see if I can get it to regenerate or go into a regen cycle, so I can at least get moving and keep things going and get to a truck stop, get somewhere other than the side of the road. My dad called me and said, Grandpa passed away. And I was like, well, this is wonderful. That was not a good day for me. December 7th, 2022 was an awful, awful day for me, personally and professionally. It's probably one of the worst days of my life, hopefully ever, but of course the caveat is so far. But the aftermath of that is I was stuck in Billings, Montana for 5 days, maybe it was 6, but at least 5 days, while I was waiting my turn in the shop to get my truck in, to get the NOx sensor replaced, because the Kenworth dealership, they were just that backed up, and there was no one else nearby who was capable of doing a NOx sensor replacement. And because of the work that had to be done to get that failed NOx sensor out, the bracket had to be basically busted out of the truck and then replaced. The bolts had to be basically broken and then extracted. It was a job, and it was honestly better that the Kenworth dealership did it because they had all the parts, they had all the know-how, and it was just the best way for that to work out. But unfortunately, because of that issue and because of where I was, there was no easy way to get home to be part of my grandfather's celebration of life. I missed the funeral, and that was not a pleasant conversation to have with my grandmother. She understood. Strong woman, she understood. But it didn't make it an easy conversation to have. And, the small silver lining is that I wasn't the only grandchild who missed the funeral. There were a couple others who missed it as well. One was pretty badly sick. And a couple others, I believe, were working. One, I think, was overseas in some capacity for business. I don't remember the exact context, but suffice it to say, I was not the only grandchild who missed the funeral. So that's, small saving grace. But it still doesn't make me feel any better about it. And even today, I'm still kind of sore about it. But that was a low point. But it was also an inflection point. It was a crucible, because while I was caught up in dealing with this issue with the NOx sensor and working with the carrier I was with at the time, and the broker I was working with, keep everyone apprised, okay, this is where we're at with the repair, I'm still waiting in line, there's no update, I'm going to be, X amount of days late, keeping everyone, up to date on the information. And then inevitably, getting the truck in the shop and then getting the repair done and then getting out of the shop, getting moving again and being able to get the load delivered. It was a cross-country load going from Montana to Georgia. That was the inflection point that taught me a very important lesson. And what it taught me is that if I could deal with a 6-day breakdown and, you know, all the attendant issues that go with that, I could have my own operating authority. And so that was the catalyst behind me getting my operating authority. And there's my green for go on the pre-pass. Don't stop at this way station, which is nice. But because just about as I was coming out of that, I was running through the whole situation over and over and over and over and over again in my mind, because in a lot of respects, that knock sensor failing, that was the last in a line of issues I had with this truck that were just, you know, parts aging, failing, wearing out, whatever. So I had a wiring harness issue that almost killed me when I lost power during a rainstorm driving through Memphis, Tennessee. Lost a couple of days there getting that into the shop, getting that issue fixed. You know, just had to replace the other knock sensor. You know, a lot of stuff needed to get done on this truck, and you know, some stuff still needs to get done because parts are still wearing out, sensors are still failing or showing engine codes like, yeah, it's time to replace me because I'm just worn out. It's been almost at my 100,000 miles. I'm done. You know, that's just part of the business. It's just the way it goes. But that breakdown in Montana, well, Wyoming, then getting towed back to Montana to the nearest Kenworth dealership there in Billings, that was the catalyst for me starting myself on the process of getting my own operating authority. And so now here we are. It's been a year since that very fateful day, that fateful morning. I still miss my grandfather, but I've still got my grandmother pleasantly. And whenever I can, I do stop by her house. Whenever I'm lightly loaded enough and I'm passing through and I have the time to spare, I always stop by. Because it's grandma. You always stop by your grandma's house. Come on now. At least if you have a good relationship with her. So, you know, it is what it is in that respect. But, yeah, that was not a good day. And the real bummer about missing the funeral is that there's a lot of my cousins I haven't seen in, I don't know, 8, 10, 11 years. And I would have liked to have seen them. We could have caught up, traded some stories, you know, reconnected. But aside from, you know, the occasional Facebook well-wishing, we're just not as close as we were when we were kids. And that's just the reality of life, you know. My cousins, in many respects, they've all gone their individual ways. They're on their own individual paths. A few of them were born when I was already, you know, teenager, college years, so I don't really have a strong connection to them, which is fine. It's just the nature of the beast. But I still always enjoy connecting with them, you know, when I'm visiting, and, you know, people are there, we can all talk and visit and all that good stuff. But that was the real bummer, not just not being able to say goodbye to my grandfather, but, you know, not being able to see people and, you know, celebrate memories, trade stories, and catch up and reconnect, because that is unfortunately one of the benefits of needing to say goodbye to somebody, is that at that celebration there are opportunities to reconnect. And I missed out on that, and I regret it extremely, but there was just no viable way for me to get from Billings to a place where I could participate. So, you know, it was what it was, but now here we are. It's been a year since that day. I've been my own operating authority, my own motor carrier for 6 months almost. No, I'm sorry, over 6 months. That's almost 7 now. Getting close to 7 months. And succeeding. The truck's almost paid off. You know, trailer's still got a while to go on that loan, unfortunately, and that's not a fun loan I'm enjoying paying, but, you know, it is what it is there. But as a crucible and as an inflection point for me personally, as a truck driver and as a businessman, December 7th is always going to have two meanings for me. Yes, I'm always going to remark upon Pearl Harbor and the massive significance of that day in terms of that attack and that battle and everything that happened afterward, because that was huge for this nation. But for me, it was huge personally because I had suffered great personal loss. But out of that great personal loss came the realization that not only could I handle the personal loss and the professional roadblock of a major breakdown while owning a truck and trailer in Lee's Don with somebody else, it taught me I could do that with my own operating authority. So despite the tragedy associated with this day, out of this day, for me, will always be the memory of the emergence of great strength and purpose. So, positives and negatives, black clouds and silver linings. So, we remember those who lost their lives today, remember those who passed on today. My grandfather did serve. He served in the Army. He was at Fort Collins for, I think, 2 years in military police. He was drafted in 1951, I think it was. 50 or 51. He served 2 years. He went back home, married my grandmother, started a business and a family. So, in some respects, a lot to look up to, a lot of lessons to learn from, obviously. Hopefully, anyway. And with that, YouTube, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you joining me down memory lane as I pay tribute to my grandfather and also those at Pearl Harbor. And I hope your Thursday, wherever and whenever you're at when you watch this, is a good one. Because even if you're having an absolutely just completely terrible, no good, horrible, rotten, awful day, remember this. If I could get through being broken down on the side of the road in below freezing or sub-zero temperatures in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, on the same day my grandfather died, you can get through whatever it is that you're going through right now. And I want to say, be encouraged, take heart, find your inner strength, because if I could do that and then come out of it and start my own motor carrier, whatever you need to do, you can do it. So be encouraged. You can get it done. If I can, you can. With that being